I'm getting real today about something every creative professional faces at some point: burnout. If your passion has started to feel like pressure, if your creativity feels stuck, you're not alone. I'm right there with you. I've been there many times, unfortunately. And I'm even going to share a breaking point that I had not too long ago. But more importantly, I'm talking about this: how do we bounce back and build a creative life that's actually sustainable? We'll break down the science behind burnout, the tools that help me and others reset, and also the stories from other creatives who found their way back to feeling inspired again. So, if you've been feeling overwhelmed or uninspired, today's episode is your reset. Let's go. Today's episode is a personal one. We're talking about creative burnout. Now, if you've ever felt like your passion started to feel like pressure or your creativity just hit a wall, I've been there many times, but I want to share a brief story right now about a very serious breaking point that I had on my journey. It was 2016, 17, so a little bit ago, but I just remember it like, how could it build up to this moment? Now, I had a show booked in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and to go to Brazil, we needed visas. So it added this extra layer of just preparation for this trip. Well, we needed to go to San Francisco to the embassy to get the visas put into our passports. Well, after several attempts, we eventually got there on time and got our passports in. Now, leading up to when we actually had to fly out, we ended up having to stop by the embassy the morning of our flight. So there's already this added pressure to this moment. We get our visas, our passports at the Brazilian embassy, and we make our way to the San Francisco airport. Now I'm feeling like, okay, there's nothing to worry about. We've got everything in hands. Well, we get to our gate waiting for our plane, and we're waiting, and it's delayed, and it's delayed even more. So much so that the connection that we had in Houston was going to be leaving way before we were even going to arrive. And the plan was to land in Sao Paulo, Brazil, go do the show, and then return because we had another show booked up. You could say this was classic overscheduling for sure. Well, after just deciding and realizing that we weren't going to make that flight and we weren't going to make that show, for the next week or so or two, I went into this sort of, I don't know, you could call it a dark place, you can call it a breakdown. I just knew that the obvious was true. It wasn't just this trip that I was struggling with. It was everything else in my life that was adding up, and especially with the overscheduling, which is something that I'm going to mention today. But I'm sharing this story with you because I don't know what pressures you're dealing with in or outside of your creative life. But one thing I do know is that it's true and it's real. And so I want to give you tools that are going to help you bounce back. Now, like I said, there was a lot more going on. So how did I? Better yet, how do we bounce back? And how do we build a sustainable creative life? Let's first define what is creative burnout. Let's break it down. Creative burnout is a form of chronic stress. It drains your emotional, physical, and mental energy, especially from creative work. Now, it's not just being tired. It's being disconnected from what used to light you up, how you used to feel sitting in front of that canvas or in front of that blank piece of paper. Now, what are the symptoms of this creative burnout? Loss of motivation or inspiration. You're always tired, even when you have rest. You're feeling disconnected, resentful about things that you normally don't. And also, you may feel like you're just phoning it in when you actually do get to create. Now, what are some of the causes of this creative burnout? One, which I experience quite a bit, overscheduling. Another one, perfectionism. The third one, no boundaries or lack of boundaries, saying yes to everything and not enough no's. And of course, no time to actually recharge. Now, Like I said, for me, overscheduling has been a huge challenge. And, I'm trying to do it all without giving myself any room to breathe, which is not healthy at all. But let's get to some solutions for this. Now, I want to take a quick break from this podcast and mention to you that if you're looking for a weekly creative fuel in your inbox, I want to invite you to the Art Supply Members Club newsletter. It's free, and every week I share tools, tips, and content to help you create more, grow faster, and go further. You can find the link in the description or the show notes below. All right, let's get back to this episode. Now, I did recently connect with a creative professional who went through some serious burnout and I think goes through it constantly. Well, what was their solution? Let's hear from them direct right now. Here's some great advice from my artist friend, Jermaine Burse. He really breaks down what it really means to have creative burnout and how to get out.
You know what I've learned about burnout? It's not a sign of failure. It's a signal. A sign that it's time to pause, breathe, and reconnect with why you started in the first place. When I hit that wall, I step away from the pressure and lean into joy, whether it's a walk, music, literature, or just silence. That's where the inspiration waits, in stillness. I remind myself that creativity isn't a faucet, it's a river. It flows when nourished. And every time I return, I come back lighter, clearer, and stronger. Keep going. Your spark is never lost. It just needs a little air.
Thank you so much, Jermaine, for those words. Powerful. Back to the show. It's just a powerful reminder that one, we are not alone. And two, there's always a way for us to find a way to work through it without compromising our mental health in that process. So when I felt burnt out, the best thing that I've done, and I do this constantly, and I call it just my studio reset, a calm, clean space, and it gives me energy again. Now, there's actually a science behind this creativity and stress, and I want to share just a little bit about it because I think it's fascinating. Now, neuroscience tells us that creativity requires rest and even boredom, which I think is incredible. Now, there's a part of your brain called the default mode network. It's pretty crazy that is even called that. It lights up when you're daydreaming, and that's when your best ideas are born. Some people may call it, just daydreaming, but I have many moments like this where I'm looking off in the distance, thinking about what I could be creating or whatever new idea that I have. But in this hustle culture, we don't let that happen. And we're always in output mode, producing, perfecting, and unfortunately, posting. So here's just a quick, just few facts about this and the science behind it. Sleep loss equals 60% drop in creativity and problem solving. So this is for those of you who think I'm going to go hard and I don't need sleep. You'll actually produce less and you'll create a whole lot less as well. Also, this is interesting. Breaks reduce anxiety and boost ideas. Again, this hustle, go hard culture that we live in, take a rest. And I'll share why that's important to me in a little bit as well. Even 20 minutes of movement a day also helps just long-term creativity. So every morning I have this more recent ritual where I'll go on the treadmill and just walk inclined for 30 minutes just to get my creative juices going for the day. And that's because now my body's moving, I've got the endorphins moving, and it just helps me by just moving my body for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. But honestly, one of my favorite reset button is always a good nap. And I get kind of teased about this, but I have no shame in that. I'm just letting my brain and my body recharge. It could be a 20, 30-minute nap, even here in my studio, and I'll go back out there, get back to work, and produce and create even more. Now, here are some other go-to reset tools when I'm running low. Now, the first one is change your environment. Even a walk outside can unlock new ideas. I love doing this. Any way I could be outside, depending on the weather, of course. If the sun's out, I still feel a sense of recharge by doing that. Now, this is an interesting one. Create without outcome. Paint for no one, just you, just fun. Like, give yourself permission to create on your terms. I like this one. Protect the pause. Block off time to rest, just like you would for a gig or a meeting, or even any big project that you have as well. Now, let's be real. Burnout doesn't just fade if we don't address it, and it can even end or shorten your career. So this is the important question. How do we sustain our creativity over the long run? Now, here's a few strategies. Build in a buffer time after big projects. Now, when I'm traveling throughout the week, going from show to show, when I get back, I need at least half a day, if not a full day, depending on how long I travel, to just reset my mind and not be on the go. I know once I reset, I'm good to go, but I need that buffer time after those big projects. Also, set boundaries, between client work versus personal passion. If there are projects that you want to work on, create a boundary of time that you can set aside to do that. And also reconnect with your why regularly. I'm fortunate enough that we get to do a lot of events and paintings and art for charities and nonprofits. And that has always been a constant why, an intent, a purpose on my journey. And I just want to recommend to you that, one, if you haven't really connected with what that is for you, I highly suggest starting that journey today. But if you know what it is, whether it's your family, whether it's someone close to you, or some other greater spiritual purpose, reconnect. And also, this is a great one, is build a creative support system, mentors, friends, and even this community. I mentioned the Art Supply Members Club newsletter. Hopefully we can turn it into an actual members club at some point. You have to let me know down below. But a positive creative community will help you go so much further. And I'm saying this from experience because I'm so grateful for a lot of the creatives that I've been able to connect with throughout the years and how inspiring they've been to me on my journey. Now, I'd like to hear from you. What is your go-to reset ritual when you are feeling burnt out? So leave a comment, DM me, send me a voice memo, and also maybe I'll feature it on the next episode. We're trying to do things just a little different now. I hope you're noticing that. All right. So that's it for today's episode. But look, this creative burnout and even the recovery, both are serious. So if you're feeling stuck or uninspired, I just want you to know again, you're not alone, but burnout isn't the end. It's just a message, and recovery is possible. So burnout is just your body saying, I need to rest and I need to reset. So if this episode helped you, here's what I want you to do. This is my invitation to you is, if you enjoyed it, I ask and invite you to share it with a friend. And also, I would love to hear your show ideas, things that as a creative, what would you like to get some insight in? And I'm going to share my email with you here on this episode, dg@paintmethod.com. So again, send your show ideas that you may have that I can cover to dg@paintmethod.com. So, and also don't forget, depending on where you're listening to this to hit the subscribe or follow button. So until next time, keep creating, keep resting, and just remember this, your creativity is powerful, but so is your peace. My name is David Garibaldi. I will see you soon.